Now, again, I've just played a song for those at home that was one of the most famous anti-war protest songs of the 1960s of the Vietnam War. And in that, it talks about how millionaires and well-connected people could avoid going to Vietnam by getting deferments. And we all know that most people couldn't avoid the draft. They had to go to Vietnam. But we do know, every one of us knows, that President Trump got 5 deferments. They had doctors coming up with excuses. He had bone spurs and whatever, and he didn't go, where John McCain did. So all you have to do is hear those first few chords, and it reminds you of this song that the wealthy, connected, and privileged, well, they didn't have to go to Vietnam at the same rate the rest of us did. And oh, by the way, they often don't pay their fair share of tax. And so this is a micro-targeted ad aimed at older people like me that no one your age would even understand. Those first chords bring back all of that messaging from this song that was played over and over and over again as an anti-war protest song. Here, it's really short, but boys, but those chords are really the message of the ad. It's what makes the ad so effective, but it's micro-targeted. They're playing this in old people neighborhoods and in retirement communities and whatever, to just remind people, hey, you had to go to Vietnam. Why didn't he? Oh, by the way, you have to pay taxes every year. What? He paid $750 worth. That there's a double standard. And that ad is really a good one. But again, it's micro-targeted. So just like you, when you get your phone, we can't use it in class today, but when you get your phone, you're going to get ads every time you go online. You're going to get ads because they know who you are. They know basically how old you are. They know what you like. They know your interests. So they micro-target towards you. And that's what's happening in this election. If Mr. Trump wins, it's because he's micro-targeted voters that are white without college degrees in the states of Pennsylvania, Florida, and in other states in the Midwest. They've been going after that group of voters for 4 years, trying to get them to maximize their turnout through micro-targeting. So here's an ad from the Biden campaign to micro-target. The Trump campaign has a great get out the vote thing among the people that are likely to vote for President Trump. And it's really going to be a battle of turnout. All right, with saying that then, let's go ahead and get to the regularly scheduled lecture here. And again, that was an interruption only because I can't put that online. They'll let me play it in class, but I can't put it online, or they'll block the lecture. So let's go ahead now and look at lecture 23. Now, at the top of lecture 23, it says, if you believe in the First Amendment, well, prepare to be offended. If you believe in the First Amendment, as I do, you have to prepare yourself to be offended because somebody's got the right to say something maybe you disagree with or that you find offensive. But you have to allow them that right to have their say. Just like you expect them then to allow you your say in a civilized manner, in an adult manner, in a polite way. That's what we call civil society. The First Amendment encourages debate, discussion, and taking sides on issues. That's what it's for. Allow us to vent and then try to convince the other side, right? And if we do it in a positive manner, it's a healthy thing. What happens when it becomes less than that? Well, we're going to see, because this is one of those elections where it could be very, decided at the last minute, one day away to the biggest election in anybody's lifetime that anybody can remember. Already over 100, as of today, 100 million people will have voted. And last time, after the whole election was over, less than 130 million voted. We're going to get another maybe 50 or 60 million people vote tomorrow. It will be the biggest election in American history, period. So not only are you living through the biggest pandemic in 100 years, you're living through the biggest election in 100 years. And I still had students in last hour sitting on their phones playing and not paying attention to the most important event in 4 years. If you care about your country, you're going to follow this election. It just goes with part and parcel with being an American citizen, right? Let's go through. I'm going to show you when you plan your watch party with your family. Now, normally in the past, you'd be able to get a whole group of friends together, and hang out and have pizza and all that kind of stuff. You can't do that now because of COVID. How many got that alert that came from Utah? Let's go to it really fast. How many got that on your phones? Raise your hand. You get that alert? Everybody get that one? Everybody got it. If you have a phone, you got that alert. It basically said, Utah, we're in trouble with the virus. We've got record cases, record hospitalizations. Our ICU units are getting full. That's the real critical part, is that when we get sick, there's no room in the hospitals for people. That's what's happening in Wisconsin, where they're having to build field hospitals like the military builds because they can't handle how many have come in. This said, everybody mask up, everybody, and keep your groups within 10 people, and that's it, right? Well, that came as a pretty big shock, right? But that's the kind of election this is. And so you can't have that party with your friends like you normally would, which would be great. But have it with your family. Get your family around and have fun with this. I mean, elections are meant to be fun, guys. I mean, I know this one is toxic and it's tough. It's a tough election. Normally they're just a lot of fun, but let me show you how you can maybe have a little more fun. Okay, what we're going to do is I put it on the website. I'm going to take you to a site here. Let's see if I've got that one. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take you to a site here. It's called projects538.com. It's the Trump Biden election map where they give you the probabilities of potential wins. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go reset the map from last period. And you can click on that link and you'll come to this page, right? So if you want to understand what 538 does so well, is they determine the probabilities. Now, right now, they are already calculating the probabilities of this election, and they now have it 89-10, right? 340 electoral votes to 190 is the probability. But we all know that the state of Florida, right? The initial results are going to look good for Biden. But as the night goes on, and the same day vote gets counted, because see, in Florida, they count all their votes early so they can post results immediately. So you can start your party at about 5 o'clock because their polls close at 7:30, which basically means 5:30 or so, you'll start seeing results from Florida. And that will start to tell you a lot. But if Mr. Trump's ahead, he's got the state. If he's behind, he can still catch up. Because his part, well, I'll show you that map in a second, but let's just pretend for a minute that Mr. Trump takes the state. Look at how it changed the probabilities of him winning. If he wins Florida, it goes from 10 to 30%. Now, there's other states in play. Right now, Georgia is in play. What if Biden sneaks a win in Georgia? What if he doesn't? What if the president wins North Carolina and Georgia? All East Coast, all quick about putting their vote up. So by 9, 10 o'clock, you're going to start seeing some things. Then it all comes down to Pennsylvania. Look at that. Trump's going to win if he can just win Arizona. But what if he doesn't? So Arizona is key. These states I'm clicking are the key ones, right? These are the ones you got to watch. What if the president can win Pennsylvania? Ooh, hang on, people. Pennsylvania? Wow. But what if he doesn't? Then he's got to win Michigan and Wisconsin. He's got to win these states here. So what you do is you just simply, I'll reset the map as they call a state. And that's what they'll do as the night goes on. They'll say, all right, for the first 2 states are going to be Kentucky and Indiana. And if the vote's big vote for Trump, it increases his chances that he might have a big vote somewhere else. If it's a light vote for Trump, just a casual vote, then it lowers the probability even more. So those two, just start marking, have this open all night and mark the states they call. Some states they can call early, some states they can't. Now, don't get confused, because up in Pennsylvania, what'll probably happen, and Michigan and here, and maybe even Minnesota, because they don't count their mail-in ballots and absentee ballots until the election day. So the initial count will be at the ballot box, which favors Trump. So don't be fooled by this mirage. Oh, president's won. That's his whole strategy. He wants to claim victory on election night because guess what? It's going to take Pennsylvania 3 days to count their votes, and Biden will catch up. Will he catch up enough to win? I don't know. But we might not know Pennsylvania for 3 days, or Michigan for 2, or Wisconsin for a couple of days. But it could be all Biden wins. We call this a mirage. Don't get fooled by the mirage. Same thing down here. Just because Biden's ahead in Florida, don't think for a second that he's lost, because his vote will come in late. And that state is always decided by just a fraction of the voters. So North Carolina, Georgia, these states, I'll reset the map. These are the ones you want to watch. The most important ones on the map right now are these right here: North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Those are the ones that matter most. But what if Biden can flip the state of Ohio? Oh my gosh, it's a decisive night. You'll see it, because that means he'll win Pennsylvania too, and probably win Arizona. So there's probabilities and so on. So just have fun with that map. And again, it's posted on the website, and you can play that game as the night goes on. It's just a great way to see what the probabilities are as the night goes on. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the campaigning over the weekend. And I always like doing this. I like playing speeches from both sides the day of the election in class. And since the election's tomorrow for you, we'll do this now. I have changed my mind, okay? After listening to the president, the former president, and Biden and Kamala Harris, I listened to all these speeches, Mike Pence, because they were all campaigning. Trump made 4 stops in Pennsylvania, 4 stops. Biden was there too, but he also went to Georgia. Anyway, they're all over the map, and they're giving speeches at every turn. And I got to tell you, Obama's a better campaigner than Trump is. Trump's good. The thing about Trump, he makes his rallies fun. They get excited, they go home, they go vote. But he's all over the map with things. He says things sometimes that actually hurt him more than help him. We're going to play an example of that here in a minute. But Obama is always on message, and he can make it fun, but he can also flip it to sober and serious really fast. And he just has a way. So I think actually Obama is still a little better overall than President Trump. Okay. But here we go. We're just going to play this, and we'll see if you can see for yourself whether. And by the way, this is from the BBC. This is international news. This is how people overseas are looking at this. This is really, truly an important election for the whole world. Here we go. And this was on the same day. First day, Obama speaks in Pennsylvania. Trump's there too that night. So head to head, same day, these two candidates.
With Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day. You'll be able to go about your lives knowing that the president is not going to retweet conspiracy theories about secret cabals running the world, or that Navy SEALs didn't actually kill bin Laden. Think about that. The president of the United States retweeted that. Imagine. What? We're not going to have a president that goes out of his way to insult anybody who doesn't support him or threaten them with jail. That's not normal presidential behavior. We wouldn't tolerate it from a high school principal. We wouldn't tolerate it from a coach. We wouldn't tolerate it from a coworker. We wouldn't tolerate it in our own family, except for maybe crazy uncle somewhere, he's why are folks making excuses for that? Oh, well, that's just him. No, there are consequences to these actions. They embolden other people to be cruel and divisive and racist. And it frays the fabric of our society. And it affects how our children see things. And it affects the ways that our families get along. It affects how the world looks at America. That behavior matters. Character matters.
Okay, so you see how Obama could go from a little bit more lighthearted, kind of bring everybody in, and then flip the switch and give you the serious message that sticks. Now, President Trump has a very different style. It's more about the show. You could really kind of say, yeah, he's got fans and they just love his show. He's a reality TV show host, after all, and he brings those skills to his rallies. People love his rallies because they're fun, and people like to vote for people that are fun. Okay, so here we go.
Hear what happened? You know, Obama's now campaigning. Even though he refused to support Biden, I mean, he never, and then even after Biden sort of semi-won, he wouldn't do it. It took forever. But now he's campaigning for him. Well, I guess it's bad. No, it's good. There was nobody that campaigned harder for crooked Hillary Clinton than Obama, right? He was all over the place. He said he will not be our president. But before that, he said he will not run. He didn't know me. Then I ran. Then he said he will not get the nomination. Then I got the nomination. Then he said he will not be our president. Then I won. I think the only one more unhappy than crooked Hillary that night was Barack Hussein Obama. The only one. Barack Hussein Obama.
Okay, so you see what's happening there. He's going back to that birther conspiracy and whatever. And don't kid yourself for a second. This really is a contest between people. It's between Joe Biden and Trump, yes. But it's more, to your paper's point, that you guys need to consider. It's between the Obama voter and the Trump voter, to see which demographic group, which group of voters is actually going to then have the chance to run the country in the future. Okay, so now playing that one, that was kind of a good setup. So you see the different styles, you see how they go along. But President Obama made a comment that was pretty interesting, and that was, as a president, you have to tamp down the emotions. You have to allow everybody their voice. If you believe in the Constitution, you have to allow everybody to campaign. And it's a felony to intimidate voters. It's also a felony to try to get in front of somebody else's campaign bus and try to drive them off the road in Texas. That's what happened in Texas. I don't know if you saw this or not, but I don't know how people like this get so emboldened as to think it's okay to intimidate this bus, which, by the way, was late to its event. There were moments when they thought they were literally going to be pushed off the road. Thank goodness this bus was not carrying Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. This was other surrogates who were going to speak. But this event, Trump supporters are saying, "Oh, look how funny that is! Isn't that funny?" No, it's voter intimidation, and it's illegal. And the FBI is investigating. Here's what happened. You ready? Texas.
Running them out of Texas. It is hilarious. I'm about to run out of gas, which I'm sure some of you would love. Look at that.
We're in New Braunfels, Texas, and we are welcoming Kamala Harris with the New Braunfels Trump Train. Woo! Look at all the Trump flags, baby! Look at all the Trump flags! Yeah!
Right. Okay. They were late for an event that interfered with their campaign. The FBI is investigating because it's a felony. You can't interfere with people voting. You can't interfere with the other campaign. If this had happened to a Trump bus, you can imagine on Fox News, they'd be all angry and upset. Here, of course, they're thinking that's funny, haha. No, it's not funny, haha. And especially presidents, what they're supposed to do in situations like this, let me move this out of the way, get this down here, is they're supposed to condemn such activity. That's what presidents do. Something like that bad happens in an election. They're to preserve democracy. They're there to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And he didn't do that. The Patriots, he called them patriots, did nothing wrong. Instead, the FBI should be investigating terrorists and anarchists. He tweeted this out. The agitators of Antifa who run around burning down democratic cities, whatever. He's just trying to deflect the thing. The truth is, this was not acceptable behavior in a campaign. There are people, we don't know who's going to have what we call the hidden voter, but we know they're out there. We don't know how some people are going to vote because they're not going to tell anybody. Because guess what? They're intimidated. There's some stories coming out of Florida. Let me go ahead and finish the rest of these slides here really fast for you. We're like in, okay, let's go down here, the tip of Florida. This is the one we want to start with here. Okay, so as I go to the presentation, the tip of Florida has a large Cuban community that fled Castro's Cuba, you know, and they hate communism, right? And the Trump people for the last 4 years have been cultivating that vote. And they're trying to say anybody that the Democrats put up, like Bernie Sanders, you know, that's who Trump wanted to run against. Bernie Sanders, he's a socialist, he's a communist, you can't vote for him, whatever. They are so upset at that community. They've been so ginned up that people who would support Biden, maybe put a sign out or something, don't dare, because they have to live in that community after the election's over. We see Trump flags everywhere, you know, and you see some Biden signs, but a lot of people are just not going to get into it. They're going to vote their conscience secretly because when the election's over, we have to live together still, right? So that's why we don't do voter intimidation. We have everybody have their say. Everybody gets to vote. We protect that. And we don't try to do stupid little tricks like that group did in Texas. We respect everybody. Well, okay, let's get to Florida. Florida is a fascinating state. Right here, you have this, what we call the I-4 corridor from Daytona Beach down to Tampa. And this is where the election will be decided as much as any place. I mean, look, you look at the map, here's the things that have to happen for Biden to win. He's got to have a big turnout down here in the South in two counties, Broward and Miami-Dade. That's the biggest, most populous part of the state, large African-American population, large Latino population. If the turnout's really high here, he's got a shot. If it's down, ooh, look out. Also here, this is Trump country, but if Biden can cut into Trump's lead and win about 43% of it, and so you watch the maps that they're going to show you, you watch the big board, they call it, and they go to Florida and they look county by county. When you look at county, if you see Pasco County, if you see Pinellas County, if you see this area around Tampa Bay, and Biden's only trailing by 40, he's got 43% or more, 45, he's probably going to win the state. But Biden may take an early lead. But don't count the president out because this panhandle area is in another time zone. So they get an extra hour to vote, and it is Trump country. And he will run up the score in this area, just like Biden hopes to run up the score down here. It's really a tale of 7 different states, to be honest. That's why it's so hard to predict. But you can tell a lot about the national election by just looking at Florida. Now, Pennsylvania is weird too. Listen carefully. Early results will probably come out where Trump's in the lead. That's because the majority of the Democrats are voting early. And those votes don't get tabulated until maybe late that night or the next day, or the next day, or the next day. And this is Trump's whole strategy, why he doesn't like mail-in ballots. It's not about Florida. He tells everybody in Florida, vote mail-in, do whatever. But here's what he wants to do maybe. This is what speculation is. He wants to get an early lead in Pennsylvania, declare victory, and you can't count anymore after Election Day. And they've got 300 lawsuits now across the country to try to stop the counting of certain ballots. One of them, 120,000 votes in Texas, where people drive through to vote. It's really cool. You drive in, you don't get out of your car, COVID friendly. You come in, you drive in, you vote, and you drive out. 120,000 votes. They went to court to have those blocked because you're not supposed to just drive into the polling booth. I don't know how so far the courts have said, no, we're going to count those ballots. But you can't suppress somebody's vote. If you do, you're going to be illegitimate again. But that seems to be one of the strategies. So don't get caught by the mirage. Don't get because Biden's got an early lead in Florida or Trump's got an early lead in Pennsylvania, that's how it's going to be at the end, because they vote at different times. Georgia, keep an eye on Georgia. If Georgia's super close, that's not good news for President Trump, because he should have taken this state by big time. If Biden wins it, it's game over. Okay. So it is about COVID. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but remember President Trump early on said, well, let's postpone the election because this COVID thing, right? Nobody can't vote during a pandemic. Are you kidding me? Look how we're voting. The record turnout in the middle of a pandemic. Americans love to vote, and nothing's going to stop them. And so not even a pandemic. So we look at this too. You're going to hear a clip where the president then starts saying that the stats out of Germany are not right, and that they're not reporting all the COVID days. We're saying everything's COVID. You're going to hear him say it. So he's trying to dispute these facts, the kinds of facts that people can see just simply by going on to the Johns Hopkins website and seeing what the worldwide trends are. He's got to dispute this, right? In order for his believers to believe that he's done a good job with COVID. So I needed to set that one up because he makes a particular comment specifically about Germany. So I just wanted to remind you of that one. All right, well, let's go through now and let's see if we can play the first one here. Yeah. This is our last foray through Meet the Press. It's 6 minutes that will summarize, and you'll hear all the candidates speak a little better than I can put it together. So let's go ahead and listen to their summation yesterday of the last final days of the campaign.
This Sunday, the final days.
Florida's looking very good. North Carolina's looking very good. Ohio is looking beyond good.
I'm going to try to get this expanded
Here,
for you.
Democrats are quietly up 8.
Okay, here we go. Let's do this again.
This Sunday, the final days.
Florida's looking very good. North Carolina's looking very good. Ohio is looking beyond good.
It's enough. It's time to change.
President Trump and Joe Biden make their closing arguments.
If we win, you're going to see a stock market that's going to go like a rocket ship.
I know our people. And I know we can unite and heal this nation.
And go on the attack.
Biden is the candidate of anarchists and rioters and looters and gun grabbers, flag burners.
We're done with the chaos, the tweets, the anger, the hate, the failure. We refuse you to take any responsibility.
The president seeking re-election during the worst COVID outbreak yet.
It's killing me inside. I'm broken. I'm broken. And my colleagues are broken.
With cases now approaching 100,000 a day.
No matter how you look at it, it's not good news.
Plus, our final NBC News Wall Street Journal poll just out on where the race stands with 48 hours to go. This morning, we'll get reports from our 4 battleground states that could decide who wins this election, from 2 experts on how safe your vote is and on the chance that the election could be decided by lawsuits, and from our pollsters on the latest numbers and whether we could see another election night shocker. Joining me for insight and analysis are NBC News White House correspondent Kristen Welker, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Casey Hunt, Rich Lowry, editor of National Review, and former Democratic Senator of Missouri, Claire McCaskill. Welcome to Sunday and a special election edition of Meet the Press.
From NBC News headquarters in New York, the longest running show in television history, this is a special edition of Meet the Press with Chuck Todd.
Well, good Sunday morning from our election headquarters right here at Rockefeller Center in New York City. We are just 2 days before the strangest presidential election in our lifetimes, fought amid the deadliest pandemic in a century, will finally come to an end. Or will it? Yes, on Tuesday, millions will go to the polls either to re-elect President Trump or make him a one-term president in favor of Joe Biden. Not only don't we know who's going to win, but because nearly 92 million people so far, a record, have already voted, and some battleground states count early votes very, very slowly and late, we don't know when we're going to know who's going to win. But here's what we do know. Our final NBC News Wall Street Journal poll completed overnight shows Joe Biden leading President Trump by 10 points among registered voters, 52-42. That 10-point spread, that's the biggest for any presidential candidate in our poll at this late stage since Bill Clinton's reelection in 1996. And for those of you with dreams or nightmares about a 2016 repeat, it is worth noting that our last poll 4 years ago showed Hillary Clinton with a shrinking 4-point lead. It was 44-40 on This Morning 4 years ago. That was down from a 10-point lead. And more importantly, Clinton's 44 number left a whole lot of undecideds in a campaign where far fewer early votes had been banked. And remember, all of this is happening amid a coronavirus pandemic that has resulted in the U.S. in more than 9 million cases. It has taken 232,000 lives and counting so far. And not only isn't it rounding the corner, it is at its highest peak yet. And with Midwestern battleground states being hit particularly hard in this moment. Yesterday, President Trump, Joe Biden, and their running mates were all across the battleground making their closing arguments.
We win Pennsylvania, we win it all. You know that, right?
Here in Michigan, where the right to vote is the most fundamental right.
The road to victory goes right through the Tar Heel state.
Florida is going to determine in every way who will be the next president.
If Biden wins, you're going to have a stock market collapse, the likes of which you've never had.
He says he paid an income tax of $750. He knew how to game the system. Well, guess what, Mr. President? I'm coming for you.
Joe Biden says we're in for a long, dark winter. President Trump said we're going to distribute the vaccine. We're going to defeat the virus.
His closing argument this week is that the press and people are too focused on COVID. COVID, he's complaining. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage.
You're right. Well, that you're right. You know, there are a lot of people that call that treason. Okay, that's treason. Let's see what happens.
Everybody knows who Donald Trump is. Let's show them who we are.
This morning, we're going to take a look at.
So that was some of the closing arguments. And the president did 4 trips to Pennsylvania yesterday. Biden was there too. Biden's whole team will be there today. And they crisscrossed the country. Biden was in Georgia. Obama was in Florida. Trump went to Florida and then flew back to Pennsylvania and hopscotch. He was in Michigan. He was in Minnesota. It's just everywhere. And if it was fun for a political junkie like me to watch all those things, but the campaign is fascinating how it unfolds. But sometimes the problem with Mr. Trump's style on the campaign trail is that sometimes he says things because he doesn't prepare anything. It's not a prepared speech. He hasn't thought it through and got the lines down. He just kind of makes stuff up a lot. And you can see it throughout all of his campaigns, everything all the way back for 5 years. And sometimes he says things that actually do more harm for his vote than good. Here's a good example from yesterday, where he's, of course, criticizing the stats coming out of Germany, and then he's attacking doctors for profiting off of COVID. Now, I know my doctor, and I know he doesn't profit off of COVID. In fact, he just wishes it would go away. And you don't make extra money for treating COVID based, but it's hard. So this statement right here, I think, is one. And by the way, this is foreign press too. So we're talking about, this is an international comment he made that I think hurts.
And our excess mortality rate is 42% lower than Europe. They kept saying, Germany. Yeah, first of all, they have different ways of counting. You know, in Germany, if you have a bad heart and you're ready to die, or if you have cancer and you're going to be dying soon, and you catch COVID, that happens, we mark it down to COVID. You know, our doctors get more money if somebody dies from COVID. You know that, right?
Now, that's not true. None of that is true. He's just kind of making it up on the fly. And this is one that hit me hard, because why are you attacking doctors who are risking their lives to save lives? I don't get that. So sometimes his freewheeling style hurts his own message. So here we go. Let's play this clip again, because it's kind of unbelievable, really.
And you catch COVID, that happens, we mark it down to COVID. You know, our doctors get more money if somebody dies from COVID. You know that, right? I mean, our doctors are very smart people. So what they do is they say, I'm sorry, but, you know, everybody dies of COVID. But in Germany and other places, if you have a heart attack or if you have cancer, you're terminally ill, you catch COVID, they say you died of cancer. You died of heart attack. With us, when in doubt, choose COVID. It's true. No, it's true.
It's not true. But nevertheless, his supporters believe that the numbers are inflated. Most experts say that the numbers are actually undercounted. And Germany doesn't mess with their statistics. But, you know, he's making the argument that it's COVID isn't that deadly or isn't that important to worry about. So that's what he said on the campaign trail in his own words. And that one really got to me. That one I wasn't very pleased with, I got to be honest with you. Okay, so we did that one. Let's do another quick ad from Biden just to kind of balance things out because we've heard plenty of Trump stuff here. Let's go ahead and hear this ad here.
We must seek not to build walls, but bridges. We must seek not to have our fists clenched, but our arms open. We have to seek not to tear each other apart, but seek to come together.
Yeah, the thing, the advantage Biden has is he's got so much money right now, he can run a lot of positive ads. And positive ads after a toxic campaign go over really well. Because guess what? He's got people like the Lincoln Project that are running the negative stuff. So he doesn't have to do that. And he is actually one of the first candidates in a long time that's over 51%, 52% approval in terms of that the people just like him. Let's go ahead and look at one of the ads from the Lincoln Project, which really goes after Trump. It's almost an I told you so ad. I don't know how effective this one is, but you have to understand that in years past, the Republicans have done a better job with their campaign ads overall. Those are usually the ones I show as examples and whatever. Like I showed you Favorite Son, this was a Democratic ad. They've gotten good at their ads for a change. The president's ads are kind of weak. They talk about Biden's mental capacity and whatever. We all now can see that he's sharp. Biden is. I mean, he's proven it every day on the campaign trail. So they don't work. Will this one work? I don't know. Let's see.
Dear Donald, we at the Lincoln Project just want to say it's okay.
Okay.
Seriously, we know you did your best.
That was the original.
But this whole being president thing isn't for everyone.
No, get those lights off! Off!
It's the hardest job in the world.
Lucky I brought some notes.
And it takes a lot of qualities that you just don't have.
You're going to be fair.
Like compassion, human decency.
If you don't mind, Mr. President.
And basic reading skills.
Yosemite.
But don't worry, you've got so many other qualities.
Beautiful.
Like dancing. Kind of. Actually, forget dancing. But you're great at remembering things.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. Thank you, everybody.
And I'm sure your kids are going places. So don't beat yourself up. Not everybody can be a two-termer. Well, this guy was. Oh yeah, that guy too. Okay, ignore that. It doesn't matter because losing doesn't automatically mean a loser. Or a failure. Or a national disgrace. Who even said that? Not us.
That's really bad reporting.
Well, okay, we did. And do. And will for a long time. And yes, most of America will come to the same conclusion.
We're last, meaning we're first.
I'm sure historians will document you as being a blight on America's presidential legacy. And yes, future generations will refer to you as that turd sandwich that accidentally won an election one time.
And you'll develop turd, like a turd mentality.
But hey, at least you're rich. Am I right? Right?
I don't even know what to think of that one, but it allows Biden to run the positive campaign and someone else, Republicans, are hitting President Trump really hard in that ad. I mean, it's every little faux pas he made through his presidency is crammed in there if you've been following him for 4 years. So it's going to be interesting to see if these ads had an effect. And their whole goal of the Lincoln Project was to take 4% of old people's vote away from Trump across the country. And if they do that, then Biden wins easily. So we see ad after ad after ad. And you don't see as many in Utah because we're kind of like a flyover state. But we do have, just a lot going on, right? So let's get back to the regularly scheduled lecture and let's talk a little bit more about how we got to be this divided. It really happened a long time ago. I mean, this has been a thing that's been building for a long time. And so what we have is a situation where we are really different cultures. Okay, now look up here. I know I got some people, you know, on their pens and paper and stuff and doing stuff that they're not paying attention. So why don't you put all that away again? We'll give you a second. I'll wait till you're all put everything away. Okay, got everything put away there? Okay, so now here's the thing. We never really were one country. We've always been a collection of different peoples that have come together. That whole idea of e pluribus unum, right? If you look at the map and you wonder, why do they vote differently in New England than they vote down here in the Deep South? It goes back to our history. This, of course, area was settled by Yankee Puritans, and look how they vote versus the South. And they spread their culture across the North. So you have these states across the North that have become called the Big Blue Wall. These were the states that, of course, defeated the Confederacy in the American Civil War. In fact, the first state to get rid of slavery was Pennsylvania, led by the Quakers, right? And so this is interesting, but notice that people have moved over time from the deep slave South. Some have moved north for jobs and whatever. And then some people are moving down this coastline. So for example, people might retire from New York and move down to Florida, or, you know, there might be a job down in North Carolina, and they'll take those jobs in that tech sector. So this map initially started of different cultures, different ideas, different belief systems. Slavery, free, that's the most obvious one. But also look at the difference between the West Coast. Look at these areas right down here that were essentially Mexico before the Mexican-American War. Really determines the voting in those states. And in the West, we're not Alabama. Utah is not Alabama. It's not Mississippi. Vote Republican, yeah, but for very different reasons. Right? I mean, it's a culture that's very different, very independent minded, you know, very much do it yourself kind of a mentality out here in the West. I'll give you an article that kind of explains these, but it also helps explain the fact that as our country merges together more and more and comes together, especially in cities of different cultures, nationalities, the e pluribus unum idea is important, but it's also important to respect the views of others living in different areas that don't share your specific values. At least listen to them. They don't have to change you, but you do have to be respectful, right? Because you would expect them to be respectful of you. And so that's why we see, look at this map. It's still showing those differences that were created 500 years ago, if you can imagine. And of course, the West, you know, was 1847. That's when this whole thing started. So it goes back to the 1850s. Pacific Coast, right? I mean, it's, wow, it goes back almost 200 years because of the Spanish, you know, settled all that. So when we see our vote and how it changes state by state, it's really important. The other thing that's important in this election is we do not want an indecisive election, because right now, Mr. Trump has said if he loses, it's because the Democrats cheated. And the Democrats are looking at all the polls and everything else. And if they win the popular vote, they're going to say, what? Twice in a row you get elected? The Electoral College is not something people in the United States really accept or believe in. They believe in democracy, that we should elect our president by whoever wins the popular vote. That's what Americans believe, and we've always believed that. So the Electoral College was created at a time 240 years ago for a specific set of reasons that don't really apply now. Now, you do know too that we don't have to decide the election on election day. You got till January 6th if you're a state and it's close and it's tight. You can count, recount, all that kind of stuff and certify. But what if it ends up in a tie? Very important. There's a possibility. Why did the president go to Omaha? Because that one vote may allow him a tie or may allow him a one vote win. But if it's a tie, then how do we break the tie? Well, we do it in the House of Representatives. And you think, oh yeah, well, look, Democrats control the House, 218 they need for control. They got like 225, 235, but that's not how it works. If it goes to the House, every state gets one vote. And the Republicans, because they have a controlling majority in little states, like 3 votes, 3 votes, 3 votes, 3 votes, electoral votes, they control 26 states right now. Democrats only 22 with 2 up for grabs right now. That would give them 24 to 26. They got to flip a state. If it goes to a tie and goes to the House, Trump wins. So it has to be decisive. If Trump wins in the House of Representatives, no Democrat is going to accept that result, because the popular vote said one thing. He won more electoral votes, perhaps, or at least they're tied, and the one with the popular vote should win. We know that because we had this happen in an election before, and it was the election of 1824 when Andrew Jackson won the plurality. He didn't win a majority, he won a plurality, 43% to 30%. But the rules in the Constitution, according to the Electoral College rules, is that if there's nobody gets 50%, or if there's a tie, it goes to the House, and the House chooses between the top 3 candidates. And when Henry Clay got the House to vote for Adams, and Adams was the most qualified person for president, that's how the Electoral College is supposed to work. The Electoral College was only meant to nominate the top 3 candidates from around the country and let the House pick which one was most qualified. But guess what? When they picked the most qualified, like the rule book says, Adams became president, but the Jackson people didn't accept it and spent the next 4 years trying to destroy him, and they did. Jackson wins in the next election. Why? Because he got universal white male suffrage. He got, in that 4-year period, the states to allow all white men to vote. Now, can you imagine what this election would be like if the only people that could vote were white men, and most of them did not have any sort of real education? Well, you know what's going to happen in about 30 years, right? It's going to be called the Civil War. We do not accept an election every time somebody loses in the popular vote but wins the presidency anyway. That presidency has had trouble, and mostly they're one-termers. In fact, all of them are one-termers except Bush, and that was a unique situation surrounding the attack on 9/11. Otherwise, he wouldn't have won either. So when you lose the popular vote the first time, it's really hard to get a second term, even if you're the incumbent. But Trump, give him credit, he's out there every day fighting for every vote. So you got to give him credit for that. And even though sometimes he steps on his own message and says things, well, doctors are no, come on, that's not true. We all know that's not true. But by the same token, he's out there campaigning every day, 4 events a day, 5 events a day, all through tonight. Now, it's tradition, you don't campaign on election day, but he may break that tradition too. Who knows? We'll see. But it's all going to be over in about a week. So don't be fooled by the mirages. Don't be fooled by the early vote. Listen to what they said about each state. How much of the vote is by mail? How much is, and that's most of it. More people, here's the deal. Over 50% of eligible voters have already voted. That's a lot of vote to count. And states like Florida are good at counting. North Carolina seems to be good. Georgia seems to be good. Utah's great at it. Arizona's good at it. Pennsylvania's not. Neither is Michigan. Neither is Wisconsin or Minnesota, which is a shocker. But don't be fooled by the early results. Use the tracker. I think you'll have great fun using that tracker if you decide to do it. And I'll go there one more time so you can see it really fast. Pull this up and educate your family. Teach your family about what's happening. All right, have fun with it. That's the main thing. Let's get some fun back into this. I know it's the most important election in our lifetime, but let's try to make that night at least fun. And whoever wins, if they win by the rules, then we have to respect the winner. All right. Take care. You guys enjoy Election Day.